You will not believe the latest news about Love and Marriage. Huntsville. It has just been announced that OWN, the network behind the reality show, is ending its relationship with Carlos King, the executive producer. This news is a huge shock, especially for the fans who have followed Carlos since the show started. But here's the surprising part. Carlos, who has been at the center of some of the most dramatic moments on the show, may not be the one to blame for what is happening now. The real issue is the future of the show itself. Let me explain how we got here. For years, Carlos King has been the person behind many of the big moments on love&marriage. He has worked behind the scenes, creating drama, bringing in unexpected twists, and making sure the storyline stayed exciting. But recently, people started talking about some big problems between Carlos and the cast. It became clear that not everyone was happy with how things were going. Now, the future of the show is uncertain, and no one knows what will happen next. Not everyone was happy with how Carlos King was leading the show, even though the drama he created helped the ratings at first. As time went on, people started to feel unhappy with his way of handling things, and the tension between him and the cast grew. The energy of the show began to change, and soon the ratings started to go down. This meant there was less excitement, fewer people watching, and less buzz around the show. OWN had to make a really hard choice. Should they keep Carlos King, who had been so important to the show's success, or should they let him go and try a new direction to save what was left of the show? It was not just about Carlos's personal issues or the fights on set. It was about what the future holds for Love and Marriage, Huntsville. Now, this is where it gets interesting. There is no doubt that Carlos King played a huge role in creating the big, dramatic moments on the show. His work behind the scenes brought tension and kept the drama going. Fans kept watching because of the chaos he helped to create. Carlos King had always been the one in charge behind the scenes, but things were starting to fall apart. Some of the cast members, especially Melody and Martel, were unhappy with how the show was being run. As their relationship changed, the tension with Carlos grew. Then, out of nowhere, something big happened. OWN decided to part ways with Carlos King. This decision surprised a lot of people. Now, the future of Love and Marriage, Huntsville, is uncertain. Can the show still go on without Carlos's influence, or will it struggle to keep the drama alive? The stakes are higher than ever. What makes this story so interesting is the uncertainty about what will happen next. Carlos King played a huge role in making the show what it is, but now the network has chosen to move on without him. Will the drama continue at the same level without him? Can the cast still create the shocking moments that fans love, or will the show lose its magic? The future of the show is now unknown, and that makes everything even more exciting. This decision does not only affect Carlos, it affects everyone involved with the show, the cast, the producers, and even the fans who are now left wondering what will happen next with Love and Marriage, Huntsville. Will the show still be the same without Carlos in charge? Only time will tell if this big choice by OWN will be the right one for the future of the show. What seemed like a stable reality show has now turned into a whirlwind of uncertainty. Carlos King leaving is just the start of what is sure to be a dramatic new chapter. Fans are waiting eagerly to see if the show can bounce back from this shakeup, or if this will be the end of the once popular series. The emotional reactions from the Love and Marriage, Huntsville cast after hearing the shocking news about Carlos King's departure have been strong. This surprising decision has left everyone in shock, and you can feel the tension in the air. The drama is no longer just on the screen, it is happening right in front of us as the cast members are now facing the changes themselves. The cast members are now having to face what this means for the future of the show. Let me explain how everything happened and why it is more complicated than we expected. For months, there had been rumors about growing problems between Carlos King and the cast of Love and Marriage, Huntsville. Some of the cast felt that the show's direction was no longer matching their personal stories, and they felt they were not getting the attention they deserved. But even with all the talk, no one could have guessed the day when the network decided to part ways with Carlos. It was a decision that shocked everyone, especially the cast, who had gotten used to Carlos's leadership and influence on the show. Here is the surprising part. While some cast members were upset by the news, others felt strangely relieved. You could feel the mix of emotions as the cast started to understand what this meant for them. For some, the idea of the show going on without Carlos felt like a chance for a new beginning. But for others, it was hard to accept the change. It was hard for the cast to imagine the show without Carlos. His presence had always been a big part of the drama, and now his departure left a big gap. The toughest part of this situation is that the cast had to face the reality of their own futures. Could they keep going on the show without Carlos leading it, or would they lose the structure that made them famous? Some were ready to move on and find new projects, but others worried that their future on the show might be in danger. The uncertainty was overwhelming. Here is where things get interesting. As the news spread, the cast's emotions started to show in ways no one expected. In a big surprise, Tisha's reaction showed a side of her that fans had never seen before. She openly talked about the possibility of the show continuing, but only if the cast could adjust to the changes. Tisha suggested that the focus of Love and Marriage, Huntsville might need to change from just drama to also include personal growth, something she felt the show was missing. Her comments sparked even more conversations among the cast and fans. Among the cast, it quickly became clear that Carlos King's departure could start a brand new chapter for Love and Marriage, Huntsville. But the tension did not stop there. Melody, who had a history of public disagreements with Carlos, was open about feeling relieved by the news. It seemed like she saw this as her chance to take control of her own story, free from Carlos's influence. You could tell that Melody was ready to change her story, one where she was no longer tied to the drama and chaos that had followed her. It was a bold move, and it also showed that things were going to change on the show. Then, Martel's reaction made things even more complicated. As Melody's ex-husband, Martel had always been a part of the drama in some way, and it was clear that he was not fully comfortable with the changes. While he did not openly criticize the decision to part ways with Carlos, you could see that he was unsure about what the future would look like for him on the show. His future on Love and Marriage, Huntsville now seemed uncertain, and it felt like his place on the show was up in the air. As everyone thought about their options, what makes this story stand out is that the news is not just about Carlos King. It is about the entire cast and the future of Love and Marriage, Huntsville, as a whole. Some cast members were ready for the change, but others started to question where they fit in the show's future. Could they still be part of the show without Carlos leading it? What did their futures look like now? The dynamics were changing, and no one knew exactly how things would turn out. Here is the surprising part. As the shock of Carlos's departure started to settle down, the cast had to figure out how to handle their relationships with each other. Would the absence of Carlos mean less drama, or would new groups form that could bring just as much drama? As the cast said goodbye to the man who helped shape their careers, they were left wondering what would happen next. Could they find new ways to keep Love and Marriage, Huntsville relevant, or would the magic that made it so exciting start to disappear? The future of the show is now uncertain, and the decision to part ways with Carlos King was just the beginning of this new and unknown chapter. The first step in what could be a big change for the show has just happened. The cast is split, the fans are unsure, and the network is now trying to figure out how to move forward without Carlos in charge. What will happen next? Only time will tell. After the surprising decision to part ways with Carlos King, things take a turn that no one saw coming. The Love and Marriage, Huntsville cast is left shocked, unsure about what their future on the show holds. This choice could change the direction of the show completely and might even change the entire feel of the cast. But here's the twist. What happens when you take away the person who built the show from the very start? How will the cast deal with such a big change? The drama around Carlos's departure is much more than just a contract issue. It is about power, control, and finding their identity within the Love and Marriage family. The cast has always looked to Carlos King to lead the way. He has shaped their stories, their roles, and their biggest moments. Now, without him, everything feels unclear. Even some of their most talked about moments are now being seen in a new way. With Carlos no longer in charge, the cast is left wondering if they still have the same power they once did. They now have to face a future without the person who created many of the show's biggest moments. But here is the surprising part. The cast's reaction to Carlos leaving has not been the same for everyone. Some cast members feel relieved, as if they were being held back or not shown for who they really are. Melody, for example, quickly speaks out, saying this could be her chance to change her story. For so long, her story has been focused on drama and Carlos's influence. She wants to take control of her own journey now, focusing more on her growth. As a businesswoman and mother, rather than being pulled into family fights and relationship issues. Melody has always wanted to show the fans a different side of herself, and now she might have the chance to do that. But here's where things get interesting. While some cast members are excited for this change, others feel differently. Some cast members are excited for this new chapter, while others are not sure about what their future on the show will look like. Tisha, for example, has openly shared how she feels about the change. She admits she is a little nervous, but she also sees this as a chance to show a different side of herself. Tisha talks about how it has been hard for her to be heard on Love and Marriage, Huntsville, and hopes that now, with Carlos gone, there will be more focus on her personal story. However, the situation is more complicated than it seems. Tisha is torn between staying loyal to the show and wanting to grow on her own. The biggest question is about the future of the show itself. Without Carlos King, what will Love and Marriage Huntsville look like now? The network might be struggling to find a new direction, and it is not certain that the same level of success will continue. Fans are already wondering if the show can keep going without the person who made it so popular. Without his creative touch, will the show still have the same magic that made it a hit? Will the cast still work together in the same way? Without Carlos King behind the scenes, the future of Love and Marriage Huntsville is now full of uncertainty. For a long time, Carlos was the one who held everything together, whether things were good or bad. He controlled how the storylines played out and made sure drama was always present. Now, with him gone, the cast has to figure things out on their own. How will they handle their personal drama without him? Will old rivalries come back? Or will new friendships form? Everything has changed for the cast of Love and Marriage Huntsville as they face an unknown future. The producers now have a tough job ahead of them, trying to keep the show going without Carlos. The big question everyone is asking is whether the show can survive without the kind of drama Carlos brought. Will it keep its audience, or will the pressure to change and keep the ratings high be too much? What makes this situation even more interesting is the feeling that something new could be coming, but no one knows what that will look like. The Love and Marriage Huntsville fanbase is feeling uncertain right now. Fans who once loved the show are now wondering if it will still be exciting without Carlos King's involvement in all the drama. The future of the show is now in the hands of the cast and producers, and no one knows what will happen next. Could this be the end of the show, or is this the start of a new chapter? As the news sinks in, the cast members have to think about what this means for their future on the show. Some may decide to leave, realizing that the kind of drama they were used to might no longer be there. Others might stay, hoping they can reshape their stories now that Carlos is no longer in control. The future of Love and Marriage Huntsville is hanging in the balance, and fans are waiting to see what will happen next. Will the show find a new way to succeed, or will it fade away without its controversial leader? When Carlos King is suddenly cut from the show, it is more than just a simple contract change. It shakes everything up for the network and the cast. The drama is only beginning. The news about Carlos King leaving has shaken everything up, and now the cast is trying to figure out what happens next. The tension between them is so strong that it feels like the whole show could fall apart. Everyone is asking, what will happen? To Love and Marriage Huntsville now. Carlos King wasn't just a producer. He created the biggest moments and the most dramatic storylines. He knew exactly how to push each cast member to their limit, and that's why the drama always felt so real. But now that he's gone, the cast has to face what comes next. Some are relieved, while others feel left behind. No one really knows what the future will look like. But here's the big thing. It's not just about losing Carlos as a producer. It's about what his departure means for the cast's relationships. After all the tension, arguments, and crazy moments that fans have watched for years, the big question is, can they move forward without him making the drama happen behind the scenes? Now that Carlos is gone, the cast has to figure things out. Without his usual direction, it is almost like the strings holding everything together have been cut, and now the cast members have to face each other and themselves. What makes this even more interesting is Melody's reaction to all of this. She has always been strong, but without Carlos, she feels like this is her time to take control of her own story. For so long, Melody's life has been full of drama because of her marriage to Martel, and now she wants to change that. She is clear about not wanting to be caught in the same drama that has been following her around. She is ready to focus on her own growth and business. But there is one big question. Will the other cast members agree with Melody's plan? While Melody sees this as a chance to step into the spotlight in her own way, the rest of the cast might have other plans. The cast members all have different views on what comes next. Take Tisha, for example. She's always stayed in the background, often overshadowed by louder, more dominant personalities. With Carlos gone, Tisha sees a chance to take on a bigger role for herself, but she is stuck in the middle. She does not want to lose the support of the cast members who have been her allies, but she also does not want to miss the chance to stand out. Tisha is at a point where she is not sure which way to go. What makes this even more interesting is what will happen to the show's ratings. Carlos was a figure that divided people. Some loved him, while others did not. But no matter where people stood, it is clear that he played a huge part in making the show exciting. Now that he is no longer involved, the big question is, can the show keep the same level of excitement? Will the ratings drop, or can the cast find a way to bring something fresh and keep the show's success going? The future of the show has just taken a big turn, and no one knows what will happen next. The whole cast of Love and Marriage Huntsville is now dealing with a big change without Carlos King leading them. The vibe on set has completely shifted, and no one knows how long the show can keep its fans without the drama Carlos used to bring. The producers are working hard to find a way to fill the gap he left, but it is uncertain if they can make it work. This situation also shows how vulnerable the cast members are. Without the chaos and controversy Carlos created, who are they really? Will the show focus more on their personal stories, or will it not have the same spark without all the drama that fans loved? The future of Love and Marriage. Huntsville is uncertain, and each cast member is wondering what role they will play now. As things settle down, there is a feeling of tension. The cast is divided, fans are worried, and the producers are trying to figure out what to do next. One thing is clear, Love and Marriage Huntsville will never be the same. Carlos leaving has left a big mark on the show, and now it is up to the cast to step up or risk fading away. The big question is, can the show survive without Carlos King, or will this be the end of it? Only time will tell if the cast can find a way to keep the show going, or if it will lose its magic without its leader.